Yes, that is right. I did say that was it for the daily updates. But there's one today anyway. In the front end here, not a lot has happened. What has happened is I've tried to run the car, and found that the variable fuel pump speed that I wanted to run via PWM output, it probably was going to work, but it also was definitely not going to work. The reason for that, you can't have two outputs for fuel pump. The link will just prioritize one and the other won't work. And since we've got a relay in the cabin here, which is set up on a fuel pump output, it says pump 1 right there, and that's running the ignition on the engine. So you can't run that on PWM, so that has to go on or off, which means we can't have that one going on or off, and those ones going on variable. So what I could have done, I suppose, plug that there cable into that there box with the screen on it and push some buttons and told the ECU that that relay there is now doing something else, and it needs to just turn on when it sees the engine moving, basically, and when the engine stops after 3 seconds, turn off. So basically the same as what the fuel pump is, and it probably would have worked, but I just decided, no, I'm not going to muck around with it. I'm going to keep it really, really simple. I ran it with the fuel pumps through just that solid relay there, normal relay with the fuse on it, that one, and it's fine. The regulator's coping with the twin pumps running at full bore, so I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to muck around with it too much more and overcomplicate things and make it difficult and awkward. The only advantage would have been to slow the pumps down with the PWM relay and reduce the excessive running of fuel, heating up the fuel in the tank and stuff while it's sitting in pits. But realistically, with what we do with the car, we can avoid that to a certain degree anyway. So that's it. So we ditched the extra box that we put in here, some of the extra wires and everything, that's gone. And of course there's the other relay that was in the cabin that's not there anymore. That one that was just chilling out, just clapping while everyone else was working. So that's all sorted. I've been through some of the wiring and replaced it with more sensible sized wiring. A lot of the stuff in here that was running from the ECU through to those relays and through to run the brake light switch and stuff like that was all 15 amp wiring, and that didn't need to be. It was over the top. And there was also some other stuff that another chap installed on the car way back when that was, I'm not sure if you'll see that style of wiring. It looks like it's a stainless steel wire perhaps, and I've found that it's breaking. It tends to be fracturing where the crimps are on all the terminals. You give it a bit of a wriggle and it'll pull out, and it's not pulling out, it actually snaps off. So I think it's a stainless steel wire, I'm not entirely certain. It is just, looking at it, it's a shiny silver. You can literally hold it with one hand like that, get your other hand and wriggle the actual wires backwards and forwards 5 or 6 times, and they just start breaking off, versus the wire that I've run through, which is just Nava wire or Repco wire or whatever. Cheaper stuff, probably not as fancy in some people's minds, but you can wriggle that around and give it depth, and it holds on a lot better than what this does. So this particular car, with all the vibrations and everything that it has going on, with everything all hard mounted and all that, I think all that other stuff's going to have to come out. I'm going to have to go through it and just pull it all out, replace it. So don't want wires breaking off. We've already had that a couple of times. That's what's happened. There was a video a while ago. We had it on the dyno and it was misbehaving and it was giving all sorts of trouble. And it was that older wiring that was You just excuse the mess, we're not finished here, right? So, I mean, you would have seen this was all a bit messier the other day, and now it's looking tidier. So, although to be fair, this has never been particularly tidy in here. It's like I say, it's a factory wiring harness with the factory plug on it, with a few changes. So we had issues with exactly what I was talking about, wires in here wriggling and jiggling and actually snapping off at the terminal. So that was a nuisance. I thought I'd got to the end of that and sorted that out, but it looks like it's the actual wire, not anything to do with whoever's crimped the terminals, or whether the terminals are any good or not. So it starts, it runs. Not going to do that again. I have to hook up the battery. It's a bit of a nuisance, but that's that. I've got some more of the fancy high temp insulation, gold foil and stuff for the harness. There should be enough to do the bits inside there. I've just got to unclip. Oh, this will be noisy, hang on. Let's just tip all that off. There we go. I've just got to unclip the Deutsch connectors. You see inside there, I'm not sure if it'll focus. There's little clips that hold the terminals inside there, and you can get in there with a suitable prying tool, and you pull all the pins back out again, shuffle everything around where it needs to be. So that's a job coming up soon. Unplug the plugs, depin them, mark them all so I know where they go, or at least take photos. But there's a lot of wires the same colours, those white wires and all that sort of carry on. Does this zoom thingy work on this one? Oh look, that's better, isn't it? It's not going to work very well, eh? Won't go any further than that, eh? Let's just zoom in by hand. So yeah, depin all those, and then I can slip that sheath over the top all the way through to there where it splits into two, and get that all looking nice. The other end is even easier. There's just one plug at the other end to, no there's not, I'm lying. There's two plugs at the other end to do the same thing to get to there. And then this end here gets a bit yucky. There's a bit of stuff to sort out there before we can slip a sheath over the top of that. Right, so that's that. I talked to you about this tank in here, said I was going to do something with that. I did. I didn't bother shifting that. I actually thought about making an entirely new tank, making it slightly less volume to match it up with the top of the fuel tank there, and maybe even put some shape on the front of it like that to get some feng shui going on. I was like, just shift the fitting like you were going to shift the fitting. Crash, excuse me, crashing the camera. Oh, I did it again. So that's a new fitting welded onto there. The old one was up here. I fluffed around for a long time. I actually chamfered the edge of the original hole, and I made a little button with a chamfer on it to sit in there nice and flush, and welded it in there, and it was all good. Beautiful, until I went to grind it all to try and make it perfectly flush and realised the skin had warped a little bit, and it was never going to happen. Got covered with the old gold foil anyway, so that's all good. Right, tomorrow I think, talk to you about that stuff, put some more of that insulation on the wiring inside the car. Then I'm going to plumb it up and I'm going to run it up to temp. I'm going to get coolant in there, run it up to temp, make sure we don't have a issue with head gaskets or anything like that. I'm sure we'll be fine. And annoy all my neighbours on a Sunday. So that's that for today. Nice and short. This wiring stuff, as I said in the previous video, or videos, even with the BMW, a lot of time goes into it, and you look at it at the end of the day and you think, it just looks the same. It doesn't look any different. I've probably changed about 20 or 30 wires and crimped about 50 or 60 different terminals and shifted relays around, and tried to start it watching the fuel pressure and going, those fuel pumps aren't running. Changed the duty cycle on those in the program, and oh, it's not running. Oh, I know what it's doing. It's fighting. It says it only wants to run the other relay and not the... Hey. So then I got the PWM side of it working, and then it wouldn't work the other one. Like I say, I just went, you know what, that's I'm not doing it. It's just too much mucking around. We'll do it the easy way. Bang, done. Good. Speaking of bang, done, good. See you later. Cheers, bye.